Hi folks, my name is Clay Gilbert and this is my webinar for this year's Promo Day. I'm going to be talking about how to use your connections and your networking abilities to gain opportunities to promote your work as an author or publisher. Before I get into the meat of the program though, I'd like to talk a little bit about myself just for a moment. I'm the author of 10 novels, the 4 novels in my science fiction series Children of Vaporway, the 2 novels in my space fantasy romantic comedy series The Conversationalist. I've got an urban fantasy called The Kind, and that's going to be followed by a sequel fairly soon. I've got 2 vampire novels, Cassie's Song and Dark Road to Paradise, a YA dystopian book called Eternity, which is going to be followed up by a sequel fairly soon. And my next publication is going to be a YA horror/dark fantasy novel called Pearl. And be on the lookout for that. I think you'll enjoy that one. My books are published by Dark Moon Press. And in addition to my work as an author, I've also been an editor. I was the chief editor for PDMI Publishing. I also speak on panels. For 10 years, I was a member of the staff of the horror track at DragonCon. And the reason I mention these are not just to reel off a lot of credentials, but also to lead into my topic. The credentials that you have on your resume as a writer or as a publisher are reflective of a lifetime hopefully spent making connections with other people. I always tell people that writing and publishing are as much about making connections with people as they are about anything else. The act of writing is making a connection. And when you meet people out in the world, whether they're coming to see you sign books or whether you're going to see them at a convention, every public appearance, whether it's you showing up as a fan of another author or you signing books on your own behalf as an author, either side of the table you're sitting at, it's an opportunity to make connections. Also, if you've just published a book, if you've got something new out and you want to get it promoted, use Google. Take a look at the various bloggers that you can find who say that they'll interview authors. Send them an email. Get on Facebook and send them a Facebook message. All they can do is to say no, and more likely they'll say yes once you tell them, hey, I'm an author, I've got this book, and I saw that you interview authors. I've had interviews with, and if you've had some other interviews, tell them who else that you've had interviews with. When I was just starting out in 2013, I mostly got bloggers who I knew personally already to interview me and spotlight me on their blogs. But as I've grown in the business and as I've put out more books, I'm about to put out my 11th book now, I've also made more connections in the professional world. My years of going to conventions also helped me in that regard. So you may think about who you know in the public sphere that might be of help in making connections. My friend Joel Eisenberg, who's a producer in Hollywood and has been helping me out with shopping around a potential adaptation of my Children of Vaporway books for television. Joel once told me that it's not only who you know, but it's how you use your connections. Most of the time, the people that you know that are more advanced in the business than you are, the people who've published more, who've made more public appearances than you have, they don't mind offering their connections for you to use. They don't mind you seeking out their expertise, because that in most cases is how they got where they are. I'll tell you a story. When I was 13, I had just published my first short story in Scholastic magazine. I went to a convention And Stephen King was a guest of honor, and the man sat down, the most popular novelist in America at the time. This was 1983. I was 12 years old. I had just had a short story published, and he talked to me for 2 hours about writing. He didn't have to do that. He's a busy man. He could have gone up to the hotel room, visited with his wife. He wasn't on a panel at the time, but he took the time with me to give me some feedback about writing and some tips that I've never forgotten my whole life. And even though now, even in my own career, I'm not anywhere near where King is or was at the time, I still have come far enough that I think it's valuable to sit back and say, look, people who are way higher up the ladder than I am took their time out and devoted time to me. I can certainly spare the time for other people. And that ties back into what I'm saying about making connections. You don't know what may be available to you in the way of these connections unless you reach out to people. Reach out to people on your Facebook friends list who you know are writers or other people in your field, or just people that have a blog that might be willing to let you talk about your book on their blog, or who might be willing to talk about your book on their blog on your behalf. It's more beneficial, I think, if you can get them to let you do a guest post on their blog, but if they just want to post about you, that's great too. Don't be shy. One thing you learn in this business is you don't get anywhere by being shy, because really all anyone can tell you is no, and they're more likely to tell you yes. Seek out connections. Don't be afraid of seeking out connections. Everyone that you know who's written more than you have or published more than you have was in your position at one point. Everyone starts from ground zero, and everyone has to build a networking platform, especially in today's literary marketplace. There's so much incumbent upon the author in terms of self-promotion. Even best-selling New York Times, New York Big Five published authors, even the big houses require their authors to do a good bit of self-promotion. Stephen King gets on his Twitter and he talks about his books and talks about the things that are interesting to him. That's another thing that you should keep in mind about making connections. Don't be afraid of social media. Social media is a valuable tool for you. I tend to use Facebook a lot. To me, Facebook is like an ongoing conversation. Twitter, I'm a little too long-winded sometimes for Twitter, but Twitter is good for fast book promoting. If you have something new out, firing a book cover up there or a quote from your book accompanied by the book cover is a good idea. But just a little message to people on Twitter every day, because I'll tell you a secret that I didn't realize when I got into this business. A lot of people don't want to know necessarily about your book all the time. They want to know about you. One of the best ways you can make connections with people is by letting them into your own personal world. And the more that you can do that, the more they will be interested in your work. That ties back into my general topic of using connections to get personal appearances. If you speak to somebody at a convention, or you go to a bookstore and you speak to somebody, if you happen to just be walking around, say, Barnes & Noble, go up to the customer service desk. Tell them that you are a local author. Ask if they have a night where local authors can promote their work. I know my local Barnes & Noble here in Knoxville has a couple of nights a month for local authors to spotlight their stuff. You have these opportunities available for you if you will seek them out. One of the most important things about making connections in the publishing world is taking the time to seek out these connections. They're out there to be had. A lot of people don't realize how much is out there. Google it. Google bloggers who interview authors. Google bookstores who sponsor author signings, or cut the articles out of that and just say, bookstore, local author signings. But the point is, a lot of times these opportunities are not going to come to you if you don't seek them out. But if you seek them out, you will find yourself with many, many more open doors than you ever imagined in terms of opportunities to promote your work. Also, don't be afraid of networking with other local authors. I know here in Knoxville there's a local authors guild which sponsors presentations by local authors every month, and they also sponsor bookstore functions and things like that. Get on Google and look for a local authors group, local authors guild. Network with people. Find out what opportunities other people in the business in your town are taking advantage of. That way you can take advantage of them as well. It's all about connections. So to sum up, backtrack for just a moment, don't be afraid to reach out and make connections, because that's the only way you're going to do it. Use your Facebook friends list to promote your work. Put together a mailing list from your Facebook friends list and email out updates about the projects that you're working on. Go to conventions. Google up local conventions and see what it takes to maybe get a vendor's table at that convention or a guest spot. I know that I've gotten many guest spots at conventions just by sending them an email, a link to my Amazon page, a list of some of the other conventions I've been to, and the various things I've done in my career. Even if they've never heard of my name before, once they Google me, once they look at my Amazon page, they see that I'm for real and that I've got something to offer them. This is a big world. We live in a big world now, and the literary business is a huge, huge thing. So don't expect that somebody's going to automatically know you. They're not going to automatically know you. Don't be afraid to introduce yourself, but also don't hamstring yourself by thinking that you're automatically going to get passed over or refused because they don't know you. Most of the time, people are open to having their eyes opened to new people, new authors they've never heard of, new public speakers that they're not aware of. They just need to know that you have credentials to back up the things that you say you can offer. And once you show them that you can, the opportunities will multiply. But you have to start. You have to light the spark by reaching out. Just think positive and know that the only thing they can tell you is either yes or no, and more often than not, it's going to be yes, at least in my experience. If you want to network with me about these things, if you want to speak to me about these things, you can look me up on Facebook. I'm on Facebook as Clay Gilbert. I'm on Twitter as at Clay Gilbert 1. You can find me on Facebook or Twitter. I'm on Facebook a lot, so constantly talking to people about books, constantly talking to people about writing tips. I have an author's blog called Portals and Pathways on WordPress, where I talk about writing tips and where I talk about my own experiences and give advice. I can't stress how much I personally believe in the idea of giving back what has been given to me. I think we are all in this business together. All of us who are writers, we're all in the tribe of words together. And we do not benefit by thinking of other authors as competitors. So anyone who wants to come to me for advice, I'm happy to give it. I'm happy to forge those connections for other people if I can, because other people more experienced than me once forged those connections for me that I would not have had people not taken their time out to help me get a little further up the ladder. So I'm perfectly happy to do that with other people. And I encourage you to cultivate that sort of attitude yourself. Always think of other authors as being on the same team as you. Think of your readers as being on the same team as you. it's all one big community. We all love stories, we all love words, and we all love reaching out and making connections through language together. So think of it, the entire business, as a way of making connections. And secondarily, use the connections that you make with other authors and with readers in a way that will benefit you, and don't be ashamed to do that. Connections, that's what connections are for. Nobody's going to begrudge you reaching out. And if they're too busy, if somebody's busy, that happens. If they're busy, they'll just say, can we reschedule, or I just don't have time right now. But nobody's generally going to be mean to you. People are going to be positive. Maybe somebody will say no once in a while, but more often than not, they'll say yes. So never let the fear of rejection keep you from reaching out. And I hope this has been beneficial for people. I hope that once you look at this, you get on Facebook, you look me up, you friend me, and you send me a message, and we'll talk some more. I hope that you get on Google and you Google local authors groups and local conventions. Any of you watching this who would like to possibly get an author spotlight on my Portals and Pathways blog, send me a message about that. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about the projects that you're working on, and I'll see what I can do for you. Bottom line is, though, this is all about making connections with others. Whether you're writing or whether you're going to a convention, they're just more methods of making connections. Don't be afraid to reach out and be consistent with reaching out. If one particular avenue of connection fails, somebody tells you, you reach out to someone about a blog opportunity or a convention spot and you get turned down, go to the next one on your list. Always keep a list of opportunities and always follow up on the opportunities, because when one door closes, somewhere another one is going to open. I'll reach out to people for an interview sometimes, and they'll say they're too busy, check back later. So I'll go hit up somebody else on my list, and maybe most of the time that next person on my list has a spot for an interview, and I'll do that bit of promotion and go check on the other people that turned me down before later on. It's a lot of matter of timing, and it's a lot of matter of willingness and patience to keep seeking these connections, because they are out there. They're out there for everyone if you know how to be persistent, friendly, and positive in your approach. That's basically it. I hope this has been helpful. Like I said, reach out to me on Facebook and look me up on Twitter, and I'll be happy to talk to you about these things. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. I hope this presentation was helpful. I hope you'll listen to this again, make notes on it, and take to heart some of the things I've said. And I wish you the best of luck in making connections in your writing career and in your publishing career. You can do it, so don't be discouraged. These connections are waiting to be made, and as writers and authors and publishers, we're in the connection business. So get out and start making those connections today. I know you can do it. Thanks for being here at Promo Day 2019. My thanks to Joe Lensdell for having me back another year. Always pleased to be here. Always pleased to give back to those people who have richly blessed me and given to me in my career. And Joe's definitely one of those people as well. So thank you for that. And thank you guys for listening. Hope to hear from some of you on Twitter and on Facebook and on email. Have a good year. Lots of success to you. And see you back next year for Promo Day 2020.